Oh, yeah, Bobby Tracy. And it's 10:30, 13.5 miles. So here we are, 11 o'clock, something like that. Just under 15 miles and 2.5 hours running. Stopped for some coffee and some food. Put some warmer clothes on. Got a good pace on. And all goes well. Starry, still. A lovely smell of spring in the air. Very, very quiet. So a good run, really. Recently I ran a nighttime ultra practice run. As part of my training program, I introduced a long run into the early hours so that I could experience the different feelings that I would go through, both physical, emotional and mental. So Friday afternoon, after already doing 33 miles since the Tuesday, I was feeling a bit blah, a bit down, no enthusiasm or desire or drive, no joy or adventure or anything really to motivate me. I knew the run was important in my training, and I also had a colleague to run with, and so I was committed also to helping him. So I spent some time in prayer and felt my lack of enthusiasm began to fade away. By 8 o'clock in the evening, 2000, my friend and I set off on our adventure 20 minutes before sunset, being sort of mid-April. It was a patchy cloudy evening, but mild and rather summer-like. A scent of springtime, sweet scents of the various flowers come out to bloom like lilac, scent of mown grass, filled the still evening air. The dusk soon fell, and after an hour of running, it was time to switch to the head torch on. My wick running top was mildly sweating, and I felt cool with the evaporation of it, but not enough to put my yellow carry-more top on. I had a full kit run, which means that I take 9 pounds of weight, which is 3 litres of water, and 5 energy bars, 5 gels, sandwiches, spare batteries, stove, coffee and cup, etc. Comes to about 9 pounds in weight, with a bum bag and a rucksack. And we set off at a comfortable pace for around 10:49 minute mile. I needed to aim for an average pace of 12:30 over the 27 miles. This would include any call of nature stops and a coffee break 3 hours into the run. The 24-hour event later, hopefully this year, requires an absolute maximum 14.2 minute mile for the whole event, or 4.16 miles an hour average. My main aim is to be able to run for as long as possible at a 12.5 minute mile pace, because the more minutes I can bank earlier into the run, bank it with credit, as a word, credit of minutes, the greater chance of achieving my goal, because I'm sure that I will hit the 17 minute mile pace towards the end, which would be a mostly walk, sometimes jogging. Soon it was full on dark. A few stars began to break through the stratocumulus clouds, and Venus could be seen brightly in the distance. The miles seemed to pile up easily, and time just flew by. Soon we arrived at a place called Bovey Tracy, a small town nestled beneath the foothills of Dartmoor, where it was quiet and silent like a graveyard at 10:30 in the evening. The chilly air was closing in now, and I decided to put my yellow top on when we had our coffee break a little further on the way back. You couldn't see more than 10 foot in front of you, and so there was no distractions of distance that had been covered or had to be covered, and thus little place for discouragement because you couldn't see very far ahead. At times the going seemed harder and the slight inclines were not obvious, but our legs soon noticed the change in road conditions, and often I would say this to my colleague. We arrived at 2300 at 14.8 miles. Remember, this is ultra pace, not speed running. And we had our coffee stop. I fumbled around with somewhat chilly hands to find the gear I needed to make a real good coffee, and nearly choking on the thick sludge of particles and strength 5 sediment. But while it brewed, eating a sandwich and an energy bar and making a short video recording. The silence at this dark country road gateway by a field was only broken up really by the far distant glow in the sky of civilization from the nearby towns. After 20 minutes we were off again. I began to warm up and feel much better and oozing fresh energy, just abounding. The miles just ticked by, and along the journey any energy gel or energy bar would be consumed. Soon we arrived at the 3-mile steady hill climb, the last hill before home, and rest and sleep and achievement. A hedgehog scurried up the bank at a place called Dean, a little country hamlet. First I've seen in nearly a year. We approached the hill with a steady 10 breaths walking, 20 breaths jogging. This seems to get us up the hill without losing too much time. But the hill was hard work, and I began to feel the tiredness creep in and my eyes close from time to time. The time was approaching 1:30 a.m. Patches of fog and mist descended, and a chilly air mass surrounded us like a shroud as we paced up the hill. At last, the top and a short steady downhill to a small country hamlet where we lived. I arrived home at 1:40 in the morning and entered our warm little bright cottage with a warm kitchen and a Rayburn going. My wife had left a little note for me on the table to say, "Well done, I am proud of you." Angeline is very kind, encouraging and supportive towards me with my running, and I really appreciate it. A wash first, and then a good strong decaf coffee, a few biscuits, and off to bed, with a grateful heart towards God, who gives me strength to do these long runs. And I learnt a lot of lessons spiritually from this event, this night run, which I want to share with you. A lot of analogies of Christian life. Number one, the weight of my rucksack when I picked it up felt really heavy. It was about 9 pounds in weight, but lifting one arm felt heavy. Yet when I put it onto my back, I didn't feel it at all. And the Lord said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." And for the first time, I could see what the verse meant. In life, we have many burdens to carry, life's cares, family, health, finance, whatever it might be. Yet when we trust the Lord, He makes the burden feel light on our backs, as it were. The weight I carried had not changed, but the place I positioned it had. When we have worries and fears, we tend to carry them in our mind and our hearts, and they feel heavy. Yet when we allow ourselves to be influenced by God's word, trust in the Lord about the future, the burden becomes lighter. Not being able to see 10 foot in front of me, there was no distractions, only focus on now, and before I knew it, I was at the destination point each time. Horses sometimes have what's known as blinkers, so they're not distracted from their work. They're able to see the ahead of them with the tasks that they are doing. People sometimes say that they have so-and-so has blinkers on. In other words, they can only see what they want to see. But for us, my example, as with the night running, only able to see a short distance ahead by torchlight. The Lord said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will take care of itself. Sufficient are the concerns, or sufficient is the evil today." We're not to think too much about the issues we may face the next day or the near future. And if you do, you will become distracted of the good things that God is doing in your life now, and His lovely presence, and you will not be filled with His peace. During that run, I could only see a few feet ahead of me. I could not be distracted by the clear vision, say, of a few miles still to go. And we need to focus upon the Lord today, enjoy what today has to give, and not be discouraged of what may happen in the future. My third point is stopping to put warmer clothes on a sweaty, chilled back takes time, causes you to lose your pace and such, but the feeling of warmth afterwards is worth everything as your performance increases and your comfort too. Sometimes we need to slow down and spend an extra time with God in quietness, worship, prayer and Bible reading. Recently I've been off work on furlough as millions of others have. And I've been busy making the most of the dry weather and getting those jobs done. Yet, at times, I felt I needed to stop, be still before the Lord, enjoy His company, read His word, pray and worship. And it may not have been a long session, but I felt so much revitalized afterwards and so much more motivated with my work. My fourth point, you can't tell always that you're running uphill. And you wonder why it's so hard going. Your legs tell you, because they know you're running uphill, but your vision doesn't know. And sometimes we need to slow down and spend extra time with God in quietness, worship and prayer and Bible reading. But also, concerning going up a hill, at times we wonder why things are feeling hard and tough. But the truth is, like with Job, the Lord allows the enemy to attack us. He also allows illness or discouragement, etc., not for our harm, but for our good. And we need to be aware of the subtle hills and almost level ones, but are not actually quite level. And when they do come, to hold back the pace, as it were, and go a bit slower to make it to the top. And we need to change our pace concerning what we're doing and how we're going through life, through prayer and worship, so that we can make it to the top and carry on our journey with the Lord. Point 5, the last 3 miles up the hill, feeling tired and walking sometimes, but nevertheless, always moving forwards, sometimes with eye closed, but moving forwards. The thought of getting home, getting into a warm bed and rest after achievement is a motivation. We all become weary of doing God's will at times, and even through the scripture, which say that we should not grow weary of well doing, shall reap a harvest if we faint not. We may become discouraged or downhearted, but the wonderful thing is that these feelings pass away, and then we have the reward of His dear cheer in our hearts, doing as good as we can for Him. I had this sense of achievement when I arrived home at 22, after 27 and a half miles. An encouragement, a little note from my wife to say well done. And the Lord wants us to have this sense of in our lives as well as we serve Him. And of course to know that He will utter those words one day, well done, good and faithful servant. Point 6, feeling tired because we have done something worthwhile. For us, this could be working for the Lord, or it could be something we have done today that has meant we had to push ourselves to achieve it, like, for example, a walk or some task around the house. That means an effort, a special effort when you're feeling ill or depressed. Number 7, memories of the adventure will last for years. The things we do for the Lord, with the Lord, even the little achievements, will be a blessing to us in the future. And also the adventures we have with Him will become precious, whether spiritual or something or somewhere we go. And it's a good thing to remember the Lord, to remember the many things He's done for us, to give thanks with a grateful heart. So my runs are all logged, and I always have short videos, commentaries compiled on Windows Movie Maker. And I go back and look at these sometimes from time to time, in fact quite often. And I always put music with it as well that reminded me of the time. And those times become more precious when I go back and meditate and share it with the Lord. So I hope this encourages you. Thank you for watching and listening.